6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Lal Malavarachi and read by J. Yogaraj. First, the headlines. The Prime Minister says that Sri Lanka is looking to fast-track talks with the International Monetary Fund. Salaries of the public servants will be increased by the scheduled relief budget. All political parties in Parliament are to discuss 21st Amendment to the Constitution today. Delivery of crude oil to Sapagaskanda refinery begins today. Ceylon Petroleum Private Tanker Owners Association says that the distribution of petrol and diesel is continuing without any hindrance. Public transport will be restructured to solve the current fuel crisis. News overseas: Texas police defend school massacre response. In sports, Sri Lanka is heading for a famous victory in Bangladesh. And those are the headlines of the news. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that Sri Lanka is looking to fast-track talks with the International Monetary Fund and agree on a loan by mid-June so that it can then approach other lenders for urgently needed funds. He said the country will slash its budget expenditure to bare bones and hopes to break even or post a primary surplus of 1% of gross domestic product by 2025. We need to find the dollars. The IMF will not bring in the entire thing, Wickremesinghe said, but if we start with IMF, it will be easier for others to help us. Meanwhile, Finance Ministry Secretary Mahinda Siriwardena said Sri Lanka was waiting for an IMF staff-level agreement so that the local authorities can initiate the work on bridging finance. The government also looking at the all options to boost revenues. The Finance Ministry says the salaries of the public servants will be increased by the scheduled relief budget. The Premier's view is to strengthen the economy of the country or government servants by a salary hike. The Prime Minister hopes to request the private sector employers as well as to increase salaries of the private sector employees. A meeting between Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, Justice Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and all political parties represented in the Parliament to discuss 21st Amendment to the Constitution will be held at 4 p.m. at the Prime Minister's office today. The objective of the meeting is to discuss the amendment further with the political parties before it is being presented to Parliament. This news comes to you from Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance.
The Leader of the House, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, has handed over the draft bill, including amendments to the standing orders of the Parliament to increase powers of the committees, including Committee on Public Accounts and Committee on Public Enterprises. The Leader of the House made a statement in Parliament recently stating that the amendments will be introduced empowering the committees for them to move forward without limiting to present reports. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara says that the Sapagaskanda refinery is scheduled to commence operations for the first time after March 20th. The Ministry of Energy further stated that the unloading of crude oil at the Sapagaskanda fuel refinery will commence today. Accordingly, the Sapagaskanda refinery is scheduled to commence fuel oil production in 6 days. Meanwhile, Ceylon Petroleum Private Tanker Owners Association says the distribution of petrol and diesel is continuing without any hindrance. Meanwhile, Ministry of Power and Energy has requested the public not to obstruct the distribution of the fuel by engaging in violent activities. And Petroleum Corporation said that the police are conducting raids to nab those who hoard fuel and sell those for higher prices. Ministry of Agriculture has taken steps to launch an island-wide cultivation drive. Minister Mahinda Amravira said the relevant gazette notification will be issued soon. He said that there are about 100,000 hectares of abundant land in the country and the highest number of them in the Western Province. He further said owners of those paddy fields have left the country. And that's local news.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. A health insurance plan to honor our most valued elders by the protectors of the nation. We now give our treasured senior citizens access to the very best medical insurance, specially tailored for anyone over 60. What's more, you don't need medical screening to access this policy. And Medi60 covers a wide range of illnesses. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that the public transport will be restructured soon as a solution to the fuel crisis. At a discussion held at the Sri Lanka Railways headquarters yesterday, the minister focused special attention on how to acute a fuel crisis that Sri Lanka is currently facing has had a negative impact on the daily lives of the people. The minister pointed out that the most appropriate step that can be taken as a public transport service is to reorganize and improve public transport, taking into account the need to meet the daily requirements of the home and obstacles that have befallen the education of the children as well as the overall standard of living. And that was top news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
This is Watchlight.
Litro Gas Lanka says the distribution of the domestic LP gas cylinders will not be carried out today as well. The company therefore appealed to the consumers not to wait in gas queues today. Litro Gas is not distributed island-wide for 4 consecutive days today. And that was Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Texas police defend a school massacre response. The UK Prime Minister says he will not resign following the Sue Gray report. A robo was developed that's smaller than a flea. Those are the headlines of the World News. The police in Texas have been defending the response to a mass shooting at a school amid criticism of an apparent delay in confronting the teenage gunman. Reports quoted parents as saying police were hesitant to confront the killer inside Uvalde's Robb Elementary School. But Texas Ranger Victor Escalon said officers were on the scene of Tuesday's attack in 4 minutes. Boris Johnson has insisted he will remain as Prime Minister despite the bitter and painful judgment of a report into parties held in Downing Street during COVID restrictions. Excessive drinking, mistreatment of cleaners and security staff and COVID rule breaking was highlighted in civil servant Sue Gray's report. She said the leadership in number 10 must bear responsibility for its culture. Scientists at Northwestern University in the United States have developed 3D remote control robots that can walk, turn and jump and are less than 1 millimeter in size. The researchers expect to further develop the robo and employ for medical surgeries. And that's World News. Moving on to development news, Sri Lanka recycler BPPL said it had received $15 million from the U.S. International Development Corporation to expand its polyester and monofilament plant, which uses waste plastic as a main raw material. The loan provided by DFC has a 10-year tenure with a 3-year grace period and is subject to regulatory approvals. And that was development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Today is the final day of the second test match between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh being played at Mirpur. Batted first, Bangladesh scored 365 in their first innings. Misfikar Rahim was unbeaten on 175 and Lytton Das scored 141 runs. Kasun Rajitha took 5 wickets and Asitha Fernando took 4 wickets for Sri Lanka in reply. Sri Lanka scored 506 in their first innings. Dinesh Chandimal scored 124 and Angelo Matthews was unbeaten on 145. Dimut Karunaratne, Oshad Fernando and Dhananjay De Silva scored half centuries for Sri Lanka. Bangladesh were 34 for 4 in their second innings at the close of the fourth day's play yesterday. Bangladesh trailed by 107 runs.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Unilever Sri Lanka has announced that 15 of its fast-moving consumer goods brands have been named the most loved brands in Sri Lanka in LMD's Brands Annual Ranking 2022, compiled by Brand Finance Sri Lanka. Securing the top spots were Lifebuoy, Sunlight, Signal, Noor, Sunsilk, Vaseline, Horlicks, Surf Excel, Comfort, Marmite, Lux, Dove, Pears, Vim, Glow and Lovely. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The International Monetary Fund said yesterday that it needs sufficient assurance from Sri Lanka of restoring debt sustainability during the debt restructuring process which the country has started with appointing financial and legal advisors. The IMF team welcomed the appointment of financial and legal advisors to engage in a collaborative dialogue with their creditors as an important step towards restoring public debt sustainability. And that was economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The weather report.
The Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, sub-Brahman and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in Nuwa province and in Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the evening or night. Strong winds about 40 km per hour can be expected at times in northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in Trincomalee district. Before we wind up this news broadcast, let's look at the main points once again. The Prime Minister says that Sri Lanka is looking to fast-track talks with the International Monetary Fund. Salaries of public servants will be increased by the scheduled relief budget. All political parties in Parliament are to discuss 21st Amendment to the Constitution today. Delivery of crude oil to Sapagaskanda refinery begins today. Ceylon Petroleum Private Tanker Owners Association says that the distribution of petrol and diesel is continuing without any hindrance. Public transport will be restructured to solve the current fuel crisis. News overseas, Texas police defend school massacre response. In sports, Sri Lanka is heading for a famous victory in Bangladesh. And with that, we conclude this morning news podcast of Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.